All right. Well, all of that being said, excuse me, we can get into the pick up where we left off. Where we left off last time is we talked about New York Times versus Sullivan uh, as uh, as it established kind of laws regarding libel in the United States, right? And again, libel is simply a written statement that unjustifiably exposes someone to ridicule or contempt. And the New York Times versus Sullivan case is what established what we call actual malice, right? The idea that to prove libel, you have to prove that the person who wrote the article either knew they were lying or just didn't do their job to determine if it was a lie. Right. So a few years later, in 1974, you get the case of Gertz versus Robert Welch Incorporated. And Gertz versus Welch established that the expression of opinions is a necessary part of public debate. Kind of one of the things I mentioned in the New York Times versus Sullivan decision, right? It was all hinging on this idea that um, you know we need to be able to criticize public officials, right? That's one of the very most important functions, one of the most important aspects of a civil society, of a democracy, is that our leaders are not above reproach, our leaders are not above criticism. And the Supreme Court in the New York Times versus Sullivan case really kind of put forward that idea that, to protect the idea of a free democracy, you have to give the most possible leeway for determining whether or not something is libel, so that you can encourage that criticism, right? And well, in Gertz versus Welch, the court went even further, right, and said that expressing ideas or expressing opinions in general is critical, right? If you're going to have a public debate, and public debate is tantamount, it is basic, fundamental necessity of a civil society, of a democracy, is that you have public debate. So the court ruled that as such, opinions cannot be considered libelous, no matter what you say, no matter how you express it. If it is an opinion, it is not libel, right? And it's very rare that the Supreme Court gives an absolute like this, but that should signify just how important this is, right? Just how strongly the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the idea of free expression and the idea of uh, opinion being necessary, is that they made it an absolute. You cannot call an opinion libel, right? Um, Furthermore, Gertz versus Welch expanded the idea from public official to public figure. Remember that in New York Times versus Sullivan, it argued that any public official had to clear this higher bar to prove libel, because the idea here is that if you're in government, right, if you are working for the people, then you have to be open to criticism by the people or from the people. Well, in Gertz versus Welch, the Supreme Court went even further and said, even if you're not in government, if you're making yourself known, right, if you are deliberately putting yourself out there for people to know you, well, then you deserve criticism, right? You are opening yourself up to criticism, and to people's opinions of you, right? Um, Private figures, people who are not trying to make themselves known, people who are not putting themselves out there, they only have to prove that the information is false, and that the journalist, the person who published the information, just didn't do their job, right? You don't have to prove that they knew it was false, just that they were lazy, right? Which again, as we said in New York Times versus Sullivan, is not easy, right? That's not easy in and of itself, but it's a little bit easier than proving they knew it was a lie, right? So if Mike Sherman is a private figure, right? He's not trying to make himself famous. Well, if Mike Sherman is a private figure and I write an article for the Freeport Journal Standard that says um, Mike Sherman kicks puppies for fun, right? And Mike says, "You have uh, damaged my reputation. You have caused me unjust harm. You've committed libel against me. I'm taking you to court." Mike Sherman then has to prove, right, that I, the journalist, didn't check into this enough, right? Number one, Mike has to prove that he doesn't, in fact, kick puppies, right? That's number one, is he has to prove that he does not, in fact, kick puppies for fun. But it then also has to prove that I didn't really do any research into this. I didn't do any digging into this. I just ran the story without really any verification. Now, if I said Mike Sherman looks like the kind of guy who kicks puppies for fun. I am now expressing an opinion. And as such, I cannot be held accountable for libel, even though Mike is a private figure. If it's an opinion, it is not libel. If I'm exporting it as a fact, if I'm claiming it to be a fact of the world, I need to make sure that I have my research done. So that even if it is false, even if it turns out Mike does not kick puppies for fun, if I can, as a journalist, demonstrate that, look, I did all this research, I asked around, I got all these reputable sources to back it up, I still haven't committed libel. I was wrong, but I haven't committed libel. And that's a distinction I think we need to be really, really careful of, right? This happens a lot with constitutionality when people are like, I don't like that idea, it's unconstitutional. No, that's not how this works, right? You don't. There's a difference between something being stupid and something being illegal, and there's a difference between something being mean and something being libel, right? So Gertz versus Welch established, number one, you cannot commit libel if you're expressing an opinion, and number two, if you're a private figure, it's a little bit easier to prove libel because you shouldn't be as held to as much scrutiny as the average as a public person, right? So if you are a public person, you have to both prove that the information is false and that the journalist knew it was false, right? That they demonstrated actual malice. They knew it was false and they printed it anyway. They were trying to hurt you with bad, false information. So again, we're not just dealing with government officials now. We're dealing with anybody who is public, anybody who is well known. And yet all the time, you see tabloids running stories about celebrities that are just salaciously insane and stupid, just insipidly stupid, right? You know, Tom Cruise has a secret island where he, murders children. What the fuck? What? Well, why doesn't Tom Cruise sue the National Enquirer? I mean, obviously he can prove that the information is false, but he'd have to prove the mentality of the National Enquirer and the people who wrote the article. So what? Why is that an issue? Well, once you sue someone for libel, they can then go through what's called a discovery process. So in proving that you don't, in fact, own an island where you sacrifice children, you give the National Enquirer the opportunity to look through all of your financial records, all of your private records. They can subpoena anything they want from you or about you in defending whether or not this was true. Is that something most people would want to go through? Is it worth it? Is it worth it to sue the National Enquirer knowing that they're going to be able to dig through all of your personal records? Right. And that's why I say this because that's one of the common questions I get in this unit is people say, why do all these things still exist if it's such clear libel? Because the juice isn't worth the squeeze, right? What you're going to get out of winning a libel decision isn't really going to be worth all that you're going to lose in the process of discovery. Okay, so in Gertz versus Welch, the court upholds, number one, opinion is vital to a democracy. As such, opinions cannot be libelous. And two, you don't have to just work in government to be worthy of criticism or to be exposed to criticism. If you just want to be famous, right? If you just are a public person at all, you are exposing yourself to criticism. You're exposing yourself to increased scrutiny. Again, move forward a couple years into 1979, and you get the case of Herbert versus Lando. Herbert versus Lando has nothing to do with Star Wars. I'm sorry. I know because of the year and the name, a lot of people get all excited.
I was excited for a second. You let me down.
I'm really sorry. I know. I wish it would be so much cooler. I would love to see Billy D. Williams in front of the Supreme Court. That would make my day. But it's just not. It's just unfortunate naming. So in 1979, in Herbert v. Lando, the Supreme Court rules that a public figure suing for libel can, in fact, use the discovery process. Well, what does that mean, right? So let's set the stage here. You're a public figure, right? You're a famous actor, and I write an article about you that says, you know, you you eat live kittens. Okay, you sue me for libel. If you're suing me for libel, what this case now indicates is that you can go through the discovery process in your case. And the discovery process is the technique to determine the reporter's state of mind when writing the story in question by interviewing the reporter's sources under oath. So again, I'd write a story saying Trent Barrera eats kittens. Right. Trent Barrera is a public figure, and I write a story that says he eats kittens. Trent sues me for libel. I say, well, I had it on good authority that Trent eats kittens, right? I did my due diligence. Well, before Herbert v. Lando, that was enough. That was all I, as a reporter, needed to do, is say, hey, look, I went to all these sources. I did my job. Well, when Herbert v. Lando was decided, now it allows Trent to also go and interview those sources. It allows Trent's attorneys to also go and interview all those people I spoke to say, okay, is Jim Yeager telling the truth and he was just, he was misled by multiple people? Or is he a credulous dupe? Did he want to believe something and they told him information and he skewed it to fit the story he wanted? Which, people have a tendency to do. So Herbert v. Lando is a case that really forces journalists to be more accountable, right? It's not enough to just say, trust me on this one, I talked to a bunch of people. Okay, well, let me talk to them too. Let me hear what they have to say. Because if you're going to say that you had good information that led you to this, then we should be able to see that information as well. We should also be able to determine whether or not that information was good. And so Herbert v. Lando was kind of swinging the pendulum back towards protecting the public figure, giving them more opportunity to defend themselves against libel in court. Which, sure, Lando Calrissian could use one day. I mean, Billy D. Williams is a public figure. It's only a matter of time before somebody defames him. Somebody says something nasty about Lando Calrissian, and then he could sue. Sure, it could. It's just not how it was originally set up. But my apologies, Mike. I didn't mean to burst your bubble like that, buddy. I'm a horrible person. All right, moving forward again. In 1991, Mcom versus New Yorker magazine. And the court, again, refines the concept of libel and determining when libel has or has not occurred. In 1991, in Mcom, the Supreme Court ruled that reporters do not have to quote exactly to avoid libel. Right? I don't have to write down verbatim what you said. This was believe it or not, this was a huge problem before this, where if I misquoted you at all, even if I said everything, the exact same tone, exact same concept, all I did was change a word. If I changed a word, oh, that's libel. You knew that's not what I said. And you wrote it anyway. Well, that's bullshit, right? That's kind of a cheap way out. So the Supreme Court ruled that changes to grammar and syntax, but not intent, are not libel. Right. So again, if Ben, right, if Ben, I'm interviewing Ben, and he says, you know what I hate? White people. And I write my article and I say, Ben Figgy says that he does not like white people. I have not changed the intent whatsoever of his statement. I have definitely changed the grammar. I have definitely changed the syntax, right? I've rephrased it to not be a rhetorical question, but I haven't changed the intent of his idea whatsoever, right? And so, believe it or not, it wasn't until 1991 that that became case precedent. But yeah, that's okay. It's okay to not give an exact verbatim quote and still express the idea the same way. That's not unfair. Uh, this is something that my wife has not learned. 90% of the arguments we get into are, that's not what I said. I'm like, no, not fucking word for word, but that's what you, I mean, I'm paraphrasing. Fuck's sake. You'll get there, kids. Just wait. Just wait. Marriage is great. You're going to love it. Nothing but happiness, nothing but good times, pure, pure, sweet love. Just great. It's just wonderful. It's what human beings were meant for, clearly. So, what happens if you get sued for libel? What happens if somebody accuses you of libel? Right. So far, we've been talking about what does it take to, to prove libel. Well, what if you're on the other side? What if you're the journalist? Which, again, a lot of you could potentially be one day. Right. Well, the first offense for libel is simple. It's the truth. Right. If you can prove that what you said was true, it's not libel. And this goes all the way back to 1734 with the Zenger trial. We talked about a long time ago, right? You know, before the country was even a country, right? We established that truth is the best defense for libel. So if you are accused of defaming someone, if you're accused of writing a story that is, deliberately harming someone, exposing them to ridicule or contempt, the first defense is, well, but it actually happened. Right? Again, if I write an article that says, Ben Figgy hates white people because Ben Figgy does in fact hate white people, it's not libel. Right? This again, I've said this before, but can't be overstated. If you're afraid of somebody finding out what you're doing, don't do it. Because if you do it, I have every right to write about it, to talk about it. It's the truth. It's what happened, whether it's embarrassing to you or not. If it's embarrassing for you to find out that, for people to find out that like the Packers, then don't like the Packers. If it's embarrassing for you, then too bad. It's not libelous. It's just because you're embarrassed, right? If it's embarrassing, that's on you, not on me. The second offense is what we call privilege, right? And privilege is the idea that if you're quoting or reporting what others have said, then it's not libel. You're just passing the information along, right? So again, if I'm writing a story about, Mike Sherman kicking puppies for fun, and I have from a source tells me that I saw Mike Sherman kick a German Shepherd, and I write in my story according to, Navia Kane, quote, I saw Mike Sherman kick a German Shepherd. I haven't committed libel by just running those words because I'm just reporting what was told to me. If I then go and conclude, so Mike Sherman obviously kicked puppies for fun, well then, yeah, then we're dealing with the gray area of have I committed libel. But if all I'm doing is reporting what was said by somebody else, it's not libel. I'm doing my job. I'm just amplifying a message that was already out there in the world. I didn't create it. All I did was turn up the volume on it. Okay? Okay. You keep looking at me. I'm like worried. Sorry, my daughter's giving me an eyeball. And well, because you're cute. I look at you because you're cute. What do you want from me? Third is fair comment, right? Another defense against libel is what we call fair comment. And fair comment goes back to what we were talking about with Gertz versus Welch. And that is that opinions are protected speech. So again, if I say Mike Sherman looks like the kind of guy who kicks puppies, it's not libel. It's an opinion. So if you're ever accused of libel, right, you can either, number one, prove that what you wrote is true. Number two, prove that what you wrote was somebody else's words. Or three, prove that it was just your opinion. This is part of the reason why primetime programming on news channels is so absurd and ridiculous, is because of fair comment. You know, these people can get on television and say whatever the hell they want about whatever candidate they want, whatever politician they want, and go, "Oh, it's just an opinion." I mean, it's never it's never overtly like this is my opinion, which is something I very much tend to do. Like I try at least to do in class is, I'll say something and go, okay, now this is just me. This is just me saying this, just my opinion, not law, not fact. They don't do that. And they'll say, when challenged, they'll be like, well, it's obviously opinion. I mean, look at the nature of the show. But when you're on a news channel, it's not so clear to people that you're expressing an opinion, right? So the fair comment gets a lot of people out of harm's way when it comes to libel accusations. Another major issue that the court has addressed when it comes to media law and media regulations is the idea of privacy. One of the great debates of the 21st century is about the so-called right to privacy. I'll go ahead and give you a spoiler. You don't have one. There's no such thing as a right to privacy. Not expressly, I should say. There's this bizarre belief amongst a lot of people that there's some kind of right to privacy guaranteed in the Constitution. And there isn't. Just isn't. Not expressly. There are implied rights to privacy. There are certain things that are deemed private, but your right to privacy doesn't exist in the Constitution. Kind of like your right to vote, as it turns out. Believe it or not, there are people in this country who are arguing that the Constitution does not guarantee the right to vote. Only that if you're going to have a vote, it has to be equal, but not that you have to have a vote, which is fascinating. But anyway, there is no express right to privacy in the Constitution. This is one of the things that one of my favorite hobbies is watching freak out videos on YouTube. We all need our thing, right? It was either that or heroin, and I decided this was probably the better option. And I love watching the Karen freak out videos. Where like, you can't record me. You can't record me. Well, actually, if you're in public, I absolutely can record you. I absolutely can record you. If you're walking around the campus of Highland Community College and I point a camera at you, too bad for you. I mean, that's the cost of doing business, man. You have no right to privacy on public land. Now, if you're in a private business, right, this is one that always comes up, like people at Walmart will be recording something and the manager at Walmart will say, hey, you can't record it here. And they'll go, yes, I can. No, because you're on a private property, right? Oh, well, then why am I allowed in if it's private property? Well, because it's like my house. I invited you in, but I can rescind that invitation any damn time. That's the way business works as well. Just because you're allowed to freely come and go at Walmart doesn't mean they can't kick you out. Doesn't mean it's not their property. If someone at Walmart tells you you're not allowed to record, guess what? You're not allowed to record. This isn't a First Amendment issue. This is a property issue. Just the same as if you're on somebody's property and they say, hey, can you take your shoes off when you come into my house? They're not infringing on your rights. It's their fucking house. Take off your damn shoes. And yeah, that goes for masks too, you idiot. God, motherfucker. We're never going to get out of this damn lockdown. We're never going to get out of this quarantine bullshit because idiots think that they have a right to do something on somebody else's private property. It's not your rights being infringed, you schmuck. It's already the law of the land. read a book, shut the fuck up, and put something over your face. I want to leave my house. I desperately want to leave my house. I like doing stuff. Fuck. All right, we got that out of the way. So, what kind of privacy can you expect according to the courts, right? Well, an invasion of privacy can only occur in one of four ways. There are four ways that you can be considered violating somebody's privacy. One is by intruding on a person's physical or mental solitude. Physical or mental solitude. If someone is very clearly trying to be alone, you should leave them alone. If someone is very clearly trying to mentally get away from the situation, you should let them. If Justin Bieber is, inside his home praying, you should be taking pictures of him. You shouldn't be recording him. You should just let him be. Right? It doesn't matter how famous the person is. It doesn't matter how easily you can see them. If they're clearly trying to get away, if they're trying to create a physical or mental solitude, you're supposed to respect that. And not doing so opens you up to civil litigation. Second, publishing or disclosing embarrassing personal facts. Just, for fun. There was a rumor a while back that Kanye West enjoys certain activities. I'm going to leave it at that. That doesn't serve any good. That's just somebody trying to make Kanye West look bad. That's just trying to embarrass Kanye West. As such, that would constitute invasion of privacy. If Kanye West could track down who started that, who published that, who put that out there, well, then they could be subject to an invasion of privacy lawsuit. Again, that other person would be able to enter discovery phase and then, interview people to determine if Kanye West does in fact like that activity. So that's probably why Kanye West isn't going to sue, because why open yourself up to that? Third, giving someone publicity that places the person in a false light. Giving someone publicity that places the person in a false light. Fun fact, this past weekend, our very own Mike Sherman won an award for his speaking skills at a speech competition. Yay, Mike. Woohoo, yay, Mike. Good job, Mike. We're proud of you, son. That's a true thing. That's a true statement that actually happened. It was public. It's information that is publicly available. If I take that information and I say, "Hey, everybody, did you know that Mike Sherman is like the best speaker on campus?" I don't even think Mike would be cool with me saying that. I don't think even Mike would want me saying that stuff around campus, right? I've given him publicity that puts him in a false light, right? Is that an egregious invasion of privacy? No, but it is still an invasion of privacy, right? If Mike goes to a speech competition and exceeds, he does well, and the college puts out a press release about the greatness and the glory that is Mike Sherman, without talking to him, without saying, "Hey, Mike, is it cool if we put a press release out about you?" It would be kind of an invasion of privacy, right? Like, dude, I don't want the world knowing this. It's not it's not bad, right? It's talking about how great Mike is, and yet it's still an invasion of privacy because it's putting them in a false light. It's putting them out more than they want to be. Fourth, using someone's name or likeness for commercial benefit. I have invaded your privacy if I use your name or your likeness to make money without letting you know. I don't necessarily have to give you a cut. I just have to not tell you. There are great stories out there. I think they're great. I think they're funny as hell because it doesn't happen to me, but there are great stories out there of people who travel abroad, right? So like people from the United States who you know, go to the Philippines and they're walking around Manila and they see an advertisement on the side of a bus stop, aside of a bus shelter, and it's a picture of them. And they're like, "What the fuck? Why am I in an ad for blue jeans in the Philippines? How did this happen?" Well, it's a picture that they posted on Instagram or a picture they posted on Facebook. One of the things that's in that user agreement, that end user agreement you never read when you sign up for social media, is that if you post it to, if anything you post to Instagram or Facebook becomes their property to do with as they wish. And so Instagram and Facebook are notorious. They're very well known for selling the rights to images from users to foreign advertising. That's not invasion of privacy because you gave them permission when you signed the user agreement. When you accepted the user agreement, you gave them permission to do that. If you end up in an advertisement for Highland Community College, if like you're driving through, you know, the east side of Freeport one day and you see a billboard with your face on it and the Highland Community College logo next to it, don't even bother calling a lawyer. You already gave us permission to do that. You already gave us permission. You guys probably should have read the terms when you sign up for classes, but yeah, we have permission to use your likeness or your name for commercial benefit for the college. Now, if I do that, if I as an individual, like let's say like I create a product, right? I let's say I make a textbook, right? I'm a teacher. Right? Let's say I write a textbook and I use pictures of you guys on the cover of the textbook. And I sell that textbook. I've now invaded your privacy because I have not gotten your permission. I have not gotten your involvement. I'm using your name or your likeness to make money for myself without even telling you about it. That's an invasion of privacy. And that's bad. Mhm. Okay. The next part we're going to tackle is going to be big. So I don't want to stop in the middle of it, right? I don't want to start it and then come back to it on Wednesday because it builds and you'll forget a lot of the stuff by Wednesday. So I'd rather just stop here, and then we'll move on to the next section on Wednesday. Okay. So in the meanwhile, like I said at the beginning, make sure that you call dibs on a class, or excuse me, dibs on a case as soon as you can, if you have not already done so, and start doing your digging, start doing your research. And I will see all you guys on Wednesday. Cool beans? Cool beans. Peace out. A-Town down.